Well, thank fuck that's over. Let's call a spade here, Pez. Thank fuck that's over, and the real stuff starts now, including the Big Bash, which starts today. But of course, we are previewing Australia and South Africa. I suppose we'll review all the things that happened in Australia and West Indies, mainly the death of Test cricket. We're going to be talking about Warner's leadership ban, his subsequent statements. Dan Brettig is on the show to give us a bit of a state of the nation about Australian cricket. Hey, Ali Martin is on the show in Pakistan to tell us about Pakistan and England historically winning a series in Pakistan. India and Australian women are embroiled in a series, not just playing a series, they're embroiled in one. Bangladesh and India. Bangladesh win the series, but Ishan Kishan hits 200, as does Virat Kohli hitting 100 in a dead rubber match. This episode is brought to you by Budgie Smuggler, budgiesmuggler.com.au for all of your Christmas party needs and subsequent attire. My name is Ian Higgins. Sam Perry sits across from me, and in many ways, I from him. Pez, before we get into Australia West Indies and what the fuck that wasn't Adelaide a great show?
Mate.
And I'm talking about the cricket in itself, the place to watch the cricket.
Yep.
But we also did a live show with Cal Ferguson there at the Hindley Street Music Hall, and it's a fucking great venue. It's a brand new venue. We were the 26th act to walk through there. Some bigger ones than us, sure. But we had a great laugh on a Saturday afternoon for a matinee show.
Mate, sensational show. So much fun. Thank you to all the Adelaideans or wherever the fuck you came from to come out and see us for the matinee, which leads you to think, people aren't going to be flogged.
Yeah.
Will they find things funny without being flogged? They did.
Yeah.
And we sort of got flogged anyway on stage. Thanks to Ponting Wines.
Thanks to Ponting Wines.
Adelaideans just know how to do cricket generally. Mm-hmm. You know, the Adelaide Test match has worked cricket out. That is, it's not about watching the game.
Not in any capacity.
It's just a meeting place to watch that Civil War reenactment.
100%.
And they took that spirit and that energy into our show.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. It surpassed my expectations for how much fun it would be. You don't want to give anything away about the show. The show is a special thing in and of itself. We want people to come along to get the special experience of the grade cricketer. But once again, bulk interest in Higo's liaisons with a hearing impaired or deaf woman. Bulk interest. And that was something I enjoyed. And I look at your face and I'm not sure you feel the same way about it. But I hope that you will permit that service to me and the rest of the people who come along.
Not really, because my girlfriend and my girlfriend's dad are coming to the Melbourne show, so I don't really want any part of that, if I'm honest. But now that it's out there, so that's going to be a thing that's going to happen in every show, so that's all good.
I mean, why did you... Well, you know what? If they come along and you answer the way you did in Perth, that will be a very special show. And only people who at Perth will understand that. But we've got things coming on.
There are two shows in Sydney. There's one show in Melbourne. Those are all sold out. The only show left on our tour for Australia for the summer 22-2023 is in Brisbane, and that is this Sunday night. That is at the Princess Theatre in Brisbane. There's a few tickets left. You can still get them. You go to greatcricketer.com. There's a live show tab there. You know how the internet works. Go to greatcricketer.com, live show tab. Do the rest. Come along. Justin Langer is going to be joining us on stage. It's going to be fun. It's a great night out. It's energy. It's vibes. It's some tunes. It's a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
It's not a live podcast where we just sit down and just record some stuff. Nothing is recorded.
Nothing's recorded.
And there's a reason for that. It's wild. It's fun. It's loose.
A couple of allegations floating around.
It's fucking laughs deluxe. Deluxe.
Honestly, it's been the highlight of the summer so far, the shows.
And 100%. Not hard, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. But made good by the people who are turning up. There's a lot of love, and it's fucking cool.
So the Princess, is it Princess Street? Am I making that up? It's the Princess Theatre. The Princess Theatre is named the venue in Brisbane. Has had a renovation, and it's going to be fucking awesome.
A couple of AFL players knocking about this show.
That's
as well.
right.
So
that's right.
TGC is transcending into AFL territory.
We're doing it the other way around.
Believe it.
Yeah, a little drop-in show there. Anyway, that's where you can get all the stuff. Of course, if you want to get our dailies for the review after every day's play this Australian summer, including the 3 test matches to come against South Africa, you can go to patreon.com/greatcricketer and you get the exclusive audio for those shows. And, of course, hashtag AskTGC Fridays, which is getting wilder and wilder as we go along there. All right, let's talk about Australia and West Indies, the second test match. Just some numbers. Travis Head, 175. Marnus hits 163. He gets 502 runs for the series. That's a record for Australia, I think. Lyon gets the most wickets in Adelaide. Boland takes 3 wickets in an over. He's bringing electricity. Thank fuck Barrel Boland is playing because he brought something to it. You know, Travis Head, we love the bin lid, of course. And Marnus is doing his thing. That's all good. That's all good. Don't get me wrong. But thank fuck Scott Boland played in this game because that was electric for 1 over. And the rest, I'm sorry, was absolute fucking dog shit. It was one of the least competitive test matches I've seen since the Ashes last year.
Yeah, and I think just for the sake of, just I don't know, for protocol, you've got to point to the positives. Like Khawaja runs, Marnus runs, Smith runs, Head runs, Carey runs and gloves.
Yeah.
Stark swinging at a pace. This is over both games.
Yeah.
NESER effectiveness. Boland still averaging 10. Like there was so much fucking boot filling in this series that the question was who didn't.
Right.
Like that's where it got to and why.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
So now there's a crisis with Cam Green and David Warner.
Of course. Smudge got a globe.
Yeah, but he got runs of the first one. So everyone had a fucking Christmas stocking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Smudge filled his up. He did it in the first game. He got it done. 220 runs.
Yes.
200 runs not out. Oof. Lights on and off.
Yes,
goes
please.
to sleep.
Yes, please.
Green's innings was strangely like tense and tight. He burnt Heady. And Binlid was blowing up even after play about the run out on the ABC. And I think mainly once they kind of extracted out of him, it was because he's on a WhatsApp thread with Jason Gillespie who signs off his messages 201. And Heady still will have to endure that.
I got to say, what I wouldn't give to have the privilege of doing that.
Yeah, that's right. Just receiving that message.
I mean, there'd be blokes in WhatsApp groups who played a bit of forwards who just be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing.
Higgins 37. I sign off messages Higgins as well. That's how I do it.
It's a prison number. And, you know, so because Warner failed here in a couple of innings, there's now discussion about the end. I mean, it is natural, I guess. He's coming up to, it'll be 101 tests by the end of the series. You know, I think it'll be up to him. I actually think his batting looks okay. Maybe the feet betray him a little bit.
Right.
But that's how dross this series was. That it's just like, who isn't doing well? Let's find something to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. It was just so disheartening how the first test match at Perth, the West Indies put up a really good fight in the fourth innings to bat most of that day. Sure, Australia were bowled down, but still, Brathwaite 100, that was good, you know. And the West Indies...
And their first innings as well. Like, they batted okay, first test.
The West Indies literally won a series against England in the West Indies like 6 months ago, a little bit more than that ago. And, you know... that's good, like, but just how uncompetitive this series was just this test match especially was just fucking so disheartening. As someone tries to blow us away outside, but I mean, I'm thinking about more positives for Australia because if I was playing the Australia team, I was like, boys, that is a great series, and of course it would be. You know, Khawaja's just gone past 1,000 test runs in a calendar year. Unbelievable. He's only second behind Joe Root. I think he's batted a handful of times less than Joe Root. Bairstow's also passed 1,000 runs in this calendar year as well. I mean, England have played an unbelievable amount of test matches, but get
your milestones in, really.
It's milestones deluxe.
It's a milestone series.
So if I'm playing the Australian team, I'm like, boys, that was so much fun. Can they come back again next year? Good news.
That's right. Well, I mean, I have to be honest. Like, we've been doing these daily reviews, and been hearing mainly from Indian fans saying, "Why don't you talk about India, Bangladesh?" Yeah. And it's like, please let us talk about our own country just once. I give you 150 videos.
But in that context, though, like just the third Test match, it's just the third ODI. Don't talk about the first two where they beat us.
Exactly. Yeah. But like, to be honest, like I did have an abiding sadness throughout it all. Like with the Windies series.
Yeah.
It's nothing against the West Indies. I think there have been some very harsh comments about the West Indies in the last couple of weeks, changing where the Test match should be. They shouldn't be given Test status, all that kind of stuff. I just I don't really go down that slide, but because your angles are slides, you know what I mean.
I see.
But I had a abiding sadness because I thought they fought well in the first Test, but by the second it was barely first class standard bowling.
Yeah.
And irrespective of the forces that lead them to that point, like how as a fan? You know, are you meant to become invested in any contest that's barely an arm wrestle? It barely got to a contest stage. There's barely any evidence that the game was in any kind of flux at any point. I mean,
Roston Chase around the wicket, 10th over the test match with people. I mean, fucking spare me.
It's depressing.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think I don't think focus should go on the West Indies because of that. These are structural things.
Yeah.
You know, over a long period of time. And they're coming out next year. You know, that's even more. It's even more flattening. And they're going to come out next year when the Big Bash is on. You know, in the second half of the summer. So Pakistan are going to play the feature test matches. You know, which includes Boxing Day and New Year's Test, and probably one before. I don't know where that one before will be. And then there's going to be 2 into late January. Now, they've cleared that window this time around for some Aussie players to play in the BBL. So, you know, they're going to be filling up that sock again.
Right, yeah. Filling up the Steve O'Keefe.
Yeah. You know, when the BBL's on, it's wrong. You know, they've got it wrong. But you know, a couple of runs knocking about. So
So I suppose that was nice. It's interesting where I get the sense that the Australian public, or you know, I guess we are turning the attention to cricket as it's actually not really getting warmer here at all. I guess it's been warm around the country, but there's so many conversations about what's wrong with cricket. You know, and I've sensed that there's different barbs or there's different theories about what is wrong with it, and it seems to be channeled in perhaps the wrong directions. Like this, we have a very different experience to the Australian public now because we just cover it 365, and so like we see the impact of the IPL only in the last couple of years because we started following it, and you know, where all cricket is going really, and it's getting taken away from the Australian public because it's not our game anymore. India owns the game now. India is in control of the game now, right? And so when you look at like our test matches are the fucking feature piece of our summer. We love the test matches, except what's happened over, what would you say, nearly a decade, maybe a little bit more than that, is that all of the big 3 countries, India, England and Australia, have hoarded all the money to basically screw over the other nations that come out to play our test summers. And so almost every year, except for an Ashes and an India summer for Australia, they're pretty uncompetitive because those countries have not invested any money in test cricket because there's no money in test cricket for them. So they go into T20 cricket. That's where it's all going. And then you think about, okay, what about the Ashes? I mean, the Ashes last year was actually pretty grim. And the one before that was grim as well. I mean, England haven't won a test here in 12 years now? Haven't won a test in 12 years. So now it's like, okay, India's the big series. I mean, India have literally won the series here twice. But we don't have the same, you know, cultural relationship with India as we do England, of course. You know, South Africa is always a good series because they often win out here. Did you say they've won the last 2 series out here? Is that right?
There's some great stats knocking around with Australia, South Africa.
Right. So that's interesting. But again, it's not the same relationship as what, you know, even the West Indies had before because of the great players that come out here and, you know, Lily and Tomo and all that stuff, that lineage that they had. South Africa have, of course, got great players, but I don't know, just don't have the same relationship with them for whatever reason. So it's getting very confusing about when cricket is good, given that no one else really wants to play Test cricket. But Test cricket is it's our centerpiece.
Well, we can hold on to the primacy of the Australian Test summer all we like, but no other country is really doing that. I mean,
so what's the point?
People will often, so who will you play against? Yeah. And people will say, well, look, we still have England and we still have India. And that's largely true because of the resources they have. But I would take it a step further and have a look at them. I mean, India announced their test squad this week. For sure it's a good test squad. I recognise their white ball squad more than their test squad now. You know, they have a primacy of their own domestic T20 competition. They have structures in place to future-proof for the future of the game. You know, they are going the way of T20 cricket. They're driving cricket that way, as they're entitled to do, because they've mobilised the most eyeballs and have the most money. You know, that's what the other countries did before them. Look at what England are doing. England have ensured that the 100, as much as it has been subject to criticism, the 100 takes the main spot in their summer now, and their test matches are around it. Look at what Brendan McCullum's doing with that test side. He is aligning it with white ball principles anyway. They know where the game is going, and although it's hard and it's painful for people there, both those countries in India and England, they are future-proofing for there. What's Australia doing to bring themselves into the future? I mean, I feel like Australia is behind. We're still clinging on like that Japanese soldier. I don't want to go into that too much. Come to the live show for that bit. But, you know, Australia is holding on to something in the past. and we like it. We can go to the Adelaide Oval and have 6 to 10 drinks, as is one's want.
Yeah.
But
Is that all?
Yeah, and we can pretend that that we're living in the past, and that's great. Nostalgia's great, but no other country's doing that now, and that's where we're going to continually get summers and incidences like now that play out into the future until hard decisions are made around this kind of stuff, and it will be painful, and it will have to be a step change, and people won't understand it. But I reject when people say, well, at least Australia, England and South Africa are playing Test cricket and looking after it. Those two countries, they're getting themselves ready for the future. They're even driving the future. Yep. I'm just not sure what Australia is doing to get themselves there. So Australia's living in the 90s, and it's a great place.
Oh, nice.
It was a
awesome.
great place.
Don't
get me wrong.
Olympics around the corner, you beauty.
But and I just think summers like now, like these kinds of Test series are just little harbingers of that. Like the future is here.
I agree.
But South Africa, we asked for a good opposition.
Yep.
Now we're talking. So we'll see.
And so let's get into a preview of Australia and South Africa, because this might be the last time Australia and South Africa have a great series, because it's 1 versus 2 in the World Test Championship table, of course. Now, we've seen the Future Tours program, which comes out every cycle, and South Africa, after this, hardly play any Test matches. So their Test side isn't going to be as good as what it is right now.
Yeah.
This may be one of the last times in the next generation. Is that too big to say, that we have a great South African side coming out here? And
it's already getting hollowed out.
Exactly.
Exactly. 1v2 in World Test Championship, alphas on alphas, first test post sandpaper. Their attack is quicker than ours, possibly better.
Yes.
Springfield versus Shelbyville, sledging Marnus and Afrikaans.
Yes.
The Gabba, the Hugh, highlights of Cowan's ton. Come on.
Yeah.
The thing. So both attacks fucking great.
Yep.
But I think South Africa's edge is ours. Maybe not in the spin department, but Maharaj is pretty good. It's just that they're short on runs, South Africa. But here's like if you go through it, Irvi, I think is how you say it. They got averages 28 from 7 tests, 1 ton.
Yeah.
Elgar's their guy. He averages 39 from 79 tests, 13 tons. He's their guy. Bavuma averages 34 from 51 tests, 100. Van der Dussen averages 32 from 17 tests, 0 tons. Zondo averages 19 from 2 matches. De Bruyne averages 20 from 12. Verena averages 26 from 11. Even Maharaj, who can hold a blade, averages 15. But Australia's very impressionable, like if South Africa's quicks get on top of ours, cat pigeon stuff, and then South Africa rise to that.
Yep.
And if you look at the stats, he goes, I think since 2006, both teams have won 11 games each, 2 draws, and only once since 2006 has the home team won a series.
Yeah, right, okay.
It's away series shit. So it's fucking shaping up pretty fucking nicely.
And do you reckon South Africa will come out here wanting it?
That's true. They'll come out here wanting it, and half of our commentators will describe Henrik Nortje as Nortje until he takes 5.
The old Nokia 6210 there.
Nokia.
Friend of the show.
Henrik Nokia.
Yeah, Andrew Nokia.
So there's some good shit.
Mate, there's some really good shit.
Warner.
I mean, their attack is sexy. Yeah. Should we talk? Okay, so Hazelwood's out for Brisbane.
Yeah.
Possibly, given it's 3 tests in 3 weeks from here, possibly more, you would say. Happened to him last year as well. Cummins is back in
doubt for Boxing Day.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, so Cummins is back in after his little quad thingy there.
Yeah.
Are you going to go for Boland? Or are you going to go for the hometown boy NESER on the Gabba there?
Boland? Yeah. I think Boland is a level ahead of NESER with respect to NESER's Shield record, with respect to his record in the small few games he's played for Australia, and with respect to the fact that it's at the Gabba. Boland has a superior record to NESER at the Gabba in terms of average.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting to, and I heard Ponting say this, so I'm just repeating what he said, but Hazelwood not playing, who's the better new ball bowler in that situation, because Cummins has been bowling first change. You'd presume Cummins comes in and just opens the bowling, should be good to see, but I don't know how they want to play that. I think that Boland averages 10 in Test cricket, so give him a crack.
Pretty good theory, mate. Yeah. Oh no, I don't think that. Stark, I guess, would have played. This would be his 3rd test in 3 weeks as well, because they've had a bit of break. It's actually worked out well, the West Indies series, for the bowlers, given the amount of time they've had off the field.
Not enough love for Stark.
Nah,
Starks looks after his body, doesn't go to the IPL. He's swinging the pink ball He's bowling quick. He's taking wickets.
Yeah, he's gone
and
past McDermott. He'll go past 300 Test wickets in this series. He's eight away, 7 away, something like that from 300 Test wickets. Brett Lee's next on the list of all time with 310 wickets.
But like, you know, credit to Stark for his body being in great shape because he's actually put in the preparation for it. JL was complimenting him on that as well.
Right,
doing it for Australia, and he's swinging it about. Good on him.
I have got now NESER took 3 wickets in that second innings there, same as Boland. But I've just got a thing with NESER that, like, he strikes me as a guy that is just going to be an outstanding Sheffield Shield player. He's got first-class hundreds. I'm pretty sure 100 plural, I think.
That's his advantage. He's a good stick.
He's a very, very good bowler. I just think he's below Boland. He may be below Jai Richardson.
Well, I think a decision was made late in the game about who would play, and it was made by Alex Carey. Because Alex Carey just decided at some point, I'm just going to keep up to this code.
Stumps. See you later.
See you later. And NESER's just going, he's, okay.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So, all right.
He's taking catch up. He's taking catch up to the stumps as well.
And he took him too. Yeah.
It doesn't look great, does it?
Yeah. What's it? How's NESER meant to come back from that? He was absolutely burnt him there, Gary.
Buried him.
Yeah, he's buried him.
Unbelievable.
And a couple of good gloves there too.
Yeah, so I'm going to go for Boland as well. And that's okay. Let's talk about Dave Warner's form, because it's been 2 years since a Test 100. Yeah. That is true. The upcoming series, India and England, record's not great there. It's obviously an incredibly hard place to bat in England, opening the batting anyway. That his record there is bad, given that they have a guy called Stuart Broad who often comes around the wicket, and they have other good bowlers as well. India is a very hard place to play for all white people, basically, except for Joe Root, I guess. And Steve Smith averages 75 against them. But Warner's form, yes, he plays his 100th Test match on Boxing Day, 101st at the SCG, and in fact, in many ways, 99 at the Gabba. But do you think in any way he's playing for a spot? There are guys like Bancroft's doing well, and again in the Shield, Renshaw's doing well. I suppose there might be some rejigging. No, I don't think anyone else in this current cycle could open the batting the way Usman was batting 5 and 3 and then opened. I don't think there's anyone else in the team. So you have to find a specialist opener. So it's either, I'm thinking at the top of my head, it would be Bancroft or Renshaw to replace Warner.
Or Harris.
So of course Marcus Harris is a reserve batter. So there you go.
Yeah. I think it's important to separate a few things out, especially from my comments at the top. I think that if Warner was to make a comment today to say at the SCG will be my last Test and I'll be retiring, I'd completely understand that in all of the circumstances, including his form and his performance, but obviously other matters that we'll talk about soon. I would be I think it's insane that people would say that that the selectors will drop him.
Yeah, I can't see him dropped.
For particularly for the guys that are waiting in the wings. They're good players, but it's not a bash the door down. You must get this guy in at the time. Like right now, I do understand people imagining the question of in all of the circumstances, do you take him to India where he has a very poor record, and then England after that, which has not been great for him either, particularly recently or in the last series there. So I understand people saying, well, what does the future look like? And there's going to be a few of these questions coming up with Aussie players because a few of them are getting on. So I get it from that standpoint, but I don't think that Warner would be in any danger of selectors saying, listen, you are done now. Yeah. Particularly given how he's been treated, because I think a lot of the guys who are close to him and around that side who make selections, I don't think they're going to lump that on top of him as well. I think, it's the cliche, but I think he's earned the right to make a choice. So it'll be interesting to see what his mindset is. I think Lawler was talking about it a couple of days ago. I think Pete might have put it to him that 101 tests in Sydney sounds pretty good, and do you want to put you and your family and your body and mind through the rigours of basically the two toughest tours for a bat? And according to Lawler, his response was absolutely, and I'm not going to be forced by anybody else to do what they want. He wants to go again. So
he's got 24 Test hundreds. He's an all-time great.
Exactly. So yeah. if he does finish up, I would hope that it would be because he's decided that's enough.
It doesn't look like it's gone to me either. Like, it doesn't look like...
No, it doesn't
in
either.
the same way that other guys, especially recently, who does look like it's gone, the eyes have gone or whatever, the feet have gone. It doesn't look like
There
that
are
to
some.
me.
I see some signs.
Well,
you know,
Markwood
like-
last year when it was... I mean, that's 150.
Yeah.
I mean, India,
Yeah.
South Africa have a number of guys who can
Yeah, I
crank it up
think
to that.
they picked up some feet stuff.
Excellent.
Just on his laptop. It's like a Moses Spotify thing. Oh, yeah. I can't remember which network it was, but his feet gradually just not getting quite in line with the ball and creating a little bit of extra room.
Yep.
But
Yep.
and he's, you know, I think if you're 36 and someone's coming in at 140, you know, you can understand it, and not like, you know, if we want to find out where he is vis-a-vis pace bowling, well, chuck him in at the Gabba against Norkia and Rabada and Jansen and whoever else,
There are
and Geedy.
significant series and milestones coming up. I mean, I think winning the World Test Championship would be a big one, and then obviously winning in England, if that's even possible for the Ashes this year. I mean, I feel like there's a sense of unfinished business with that stuff for this Aussie squad, given what happened last time 4 years ago. I just sense that would be very much in the mind to achieve for him. I mean, while we're in the neighbourhood, let's just talk about Warner's leadership ban now, unless you want to talk about anything else with Australia and South Africa. I think it's going to be a fucking great series. I'm looking forward to it.
And
Brisbane day one sold out.
Nothing else to say about that. Like we're going to see how much the opposition counts in terms of Australia's interest in the cricket. Given that day one sold out at the Gabba, I've got a feeling it's been a pretty big factor in people's interest in the Test cricket.
Yeah.
So.
And also got to say, good for Brisbane as well, because I mean, usually they start off the summer, but it's in like late November, early December when people are still at work. It's just getting into the window now. I mean, day one's obviously a Saturday, so that is a significant factor, but it's just getting close enough to that part of the time of the year where it's like, no, I can check out from work now. And if you want to come on for day two, at the end of day two, come to TGC, come to Princess Theatre, TGC with JL. That's going to be good fun. All right, Warner's leadership ban. So Warner withdrew his application to have his life ban on leadership of any Australian teams overturned. So let me read an excerpt of his statement that he released. In effect, counsel assisting, and it appears to some extent the review panel want to conduct a public trial of me and what occurred during the third test at Newlands. They want to conduct a public spectacle to, in the panel's words, have a cleansing, inverted commas. I'm not prepared for my family to be the washing machine for cricket's dirty laundry. Regrettably, I have no practical alternative at this point in time but to withdraw my application. I'm not prepared to subject my family or my teammates to further trauma and disruption by accepting a departure from the way in which my application should be dealt with pursuant to the code of conduct. Some things are more important than cricket. Since then, after that, his manager James Erskine said that two executives greenlit the idea for sandpaper in the dressing rooms there. Warner said that didn't happen. Steve Smith has come out this week, and he also said, outside of that, he also said that the ban is fundamentally wrong. Where would you like? So, I mean, a bit's happened, but I suppose it seems to have come to a conclusion with this. Though, given that this is the first series, Australia-South Africa, first test series since sandpaper, nearly 5 years ago. That was 2018, February or March 2018. So nearly 5 years ago. It feels like it might pop up again in some press conferences, but it does feel like it's come to a conclusion. But I got to say, it's unbelievably disappointing from a fan's perspective that the leadership shown, or the lack of leadership shown from the governing body, in my opinion, nears on disgraceful for the treatment of this player. I think we've spoken about this in the review shows, especially after day one of, I think, this second test matches when this came to light. That both things can be true. I think Dave Warner's got some responsibility. Obviously, he was heavily involved in the sandpaper incident. There's no question about that. And obviously he carries the can a little bit for his behaviour on the field over the years. He has upset a lot of Australian fans for that. Those things are true, and they can be true at the same time. But if you can look at this, so as you look at it from 30,000 feet or whatever the saying is, the treatment of this guy, to lump the entire responsibility of him on him, in my opinion, is an absolute disgrace. And I have enormous sympathy for him. Because I think it's severely unfair, especially, which is no one's fault except for the governing body, that the captain at that time then captains this game again. And the captain, I'm talking about Steve Smith, said on top of that that his ban is fundamentally wrong. It's extremely confusing. But they are, Ian Chappell has said that the governing body is protecting themselves. And good on Dave Warner for basically telling them to go and get stuffed, was the quote.
I think that comment that Smith made is probably the most powerful and eloquent thing I've ever heard him say in public as an Australian player.
Good point,
and worth, I don't think it's been reported or reflected upon enough. I think him captaining this game in the same week that Warner walked away from the process, which is this word we'll get onto in a second, it so crystallizes the ridiculousness of the situation. I do at the same time sense that the public is tired, of all of this, and partly tired because they reject the binary of Warner as villain and let me say that again: Warner as victim and CA as villain, and I think that's fair enough as well. In many ways, this is Coates at 10 paces.
In many ways.
And that's okay. It's so easy in media to frame things as like hero, villain, good, bad. It's not that. It is. It's cricket. That's Cricket Australia. That's the thing that I think turns the public off all of it. But it's, who's the biggest coat? So, you're right. Warner walked away, and when you say there's a conclusion to this, I see it as just another unseemly and disappointing episode, and there'll be more. There'll be more in this. And so, when you stepping back in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however long this is going to roll on for, it's just going to be another one where there was an opportunity, I think, to tidy things up a little bit, to just provide a little bit of justice, albeit late, to smooth things over, to just roll back the ridiculousness of that punishment in perpetuity for Warner, because that wasn't fair. And
this was all about just captaining 4 BBL games.
Well, and look, I've always seen the leadership thing as something more than that. It was about the treatment of a great of the game, although he's a great in character. Sure, he carries that forever now. Yep. Regardless of whether he captains the BBL, that's kind of missing the point for me. He might have done a few games in the BBL or whatever, or for Australia. It's more like he'll wear that around his neck, because sandpaper is not about the 80 grit anymore. Sandpaper is the catch-all term for the ugliness of Australian cricket. Right. And I just think it is so disproportionately saddled on Warner. Just with this episode, Nick Hockley in this classically muddled verbiage that he has when he speaks, said CA, sorry, let me take a step back. What happened was the independent commission that was sourced by Cricket Australia to oversee this insisted that much of this hearing needed to be public because it was a matter of public interest. At the commencement of that, I thought that was ridiculous. The more I think about it, I think it is in the public interest. But Hockley said that CA couldn't do anything because its hands were tied by mandatory standards set forth by Sport Integrity Australia. That it couldn't do anything. It wiped its hands clean. I think that's annoying people. I mean, the SMH has come out later and said, according to multiple sources, Sport Integrity Australia does not set mandatory parameters for Cricket Australia other than to require impartiality from tribunal members. So that was wrong from Hockley.
This is why no one in Australia, I think, really cares about it. Because look at this fucking muddled comms speak here. It's you're doing about integrity commissions and stuff.
And this is the bit I want to zero in on. What? Why? Hockley claims they were constrained by a process. I don't believe that. No. I think that I think this situation is playing out fairly close to what CA would have wanted. You have to remember there's a fair amount of ill will towards Warner at Jolimont. That's my view. You know, Hockley does make reference to getting coffees with him in Tamarama and stuff. I think that's window dressing. I think that the end, if you are sitting in Cricket Australia, I think the end outcomes from this episode are fantastic. If your aims were that Warner's leadership ban remains, that CA's hands appear clean, they've achieved it by stealth. You can't quite see it, but you can smell the aroma of vindictiveness around this stuff. I think Warner's been played.
Hard.
Now, and it begs this question, what upside is there to saddling Warner with sandpaper and all it encompasses, because that's the current state, according to Australia. Sandpaper is Warner.
Yeah.
There's a bit of conspiracy stuff around there, but not really.
Yeah.
Like the upside to doing it is that like the truth is that like the truth must be that more people were involved. But if that came out, a lot of reputations are going to be damaged.
Yeah.
You know? So there are a lot of interests that would prefer all of this to concentrate on Warner. It's cleaner, it's more convenient, it's scapegoating, like writ large. And one of the most insidious things about it is I think while Warner has been the chief architect of his own reputational difficulties with behaviour in the past, I think CA have fanned those flames with the way they've treated him. And so as it stands, much of the public are like, well, Warner's not my cup of tea anyway, so I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
And so this injustice will be allowed to stand.
Yeah.
People will then say, well, he's got his book to come out. His book, it'll be interesting to see what comes out in that book. Well, he clearly doesn't want to burn his mates and people involved. So what does he do there? They've called his bluff on it.
Oh, exactly. So I was going to say, I mean, what they've asked, I don't think he's quite Lee Harvey Oswald in the sense that he was, a communist in the area that time.
Who shot a president, allegedly. I don't think he's that.
That's quite an allegation that I've just made. But
Higgins claims Warner, not Oswald.
Wow. Okay. He goes, wow, big call. Because, he's of course involved heavily in the shooting of the president, but the president being the Kookaburra Red King. they were seeing a Red King. That was the thing people weren't talking about. It's a two-piecer. But they basically asked him just like, okay, you want the captaincy? Tell us what happened. Burn your mates. Drag your family through this whole thing again. I mean, it's like you've rightly put it. They've called his bluff. I mean, they've in my opinion completely fucked him.
And at the same time said, no, that wasn't us. That's actually the mandatory processes,
out of our hands.
which has been proven to be not true.
Absolute rubbish. Yeah,
I think it's administrative wizardry.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Fair play.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people are putting this down to some kind of ineptitude. I think they've got the outcome they wanted because it is mired in so much bureaucracy and red tape. People are busy. People have mortgages. There's cost of living. People don't have time to sit down and read fucking 14 pages from like 12, size 8 print.
The Warren Commission
from Brettig.
Yeah.
Who will be joining us shortly.
Yeah.
Going, this is what you need to understand about this. It's kind of like, Warner's made his bed here, isn't he? You lay down with dogs get fleas. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just think that it's not a case of Warner victim, CA villain. But the proportions of it are so out of whack and it is unfair on Warner. There are others involved, not just in sandpaper, but all of it.
Also, the hearing was going to be, I think it was either going to be this week or the week after this test match, which makes it right close to Christmas. It was like, so leading into Boxing Day, you can imagine just like, just like...
it's a stitch up.
Yeah, it's an absolute stitch up.
But if you're, let's go from the other side. If you're CA as well, you're like, maybe you'd be like, well, hang on, he hates us. He hates us deluxe.
Yeah.
Why would we, remove that punishment and give him that reward of being able to lead and the reputational uplift and the admission of mistake when he has threatened to burn us all anyway? So... Because they have been at loggerheads for years.
Yes, for sure.
Warner and CA.
Right. So if they give him this carrot, is he less likely to then go on and say like...
They might make a calculation, no.
He's going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the truth, yeah. Maybe.
So... we
figured it out. That's good.
Yeah. It just goes to show what a deplorable mess the entire thing is, and that like it really reflects on and this is the conclusion that like Longstaff came to, albeit possibly on the field, that it's a win at all costs attitude, but it's a win at all costs attitude in terms of self-preservation too.
Yeah.
Everyone will burn anyone, like everyone. The only person, as far as I can see, who's come out looking good out of this is the story that emerges that Khawaja said we should all put our hands up. And say it was all of us. They can't fire all of us. Like, okay, it's a bit pragmatic, but it's kind of true too. It's really disappointing.
I mean, literally said this at the time, like now 4 years ago, that the original punishments were so disproportionate to anything that was even conceivable at the time, including the opposition captain at the time, Fat
Incredible
Duplessis.
mess. What a mess.
Unbelievable fucking mess. And I worry about it, mate. I worry about it. I mean, you're right. Like, CA probably got the result they wanted, but I worry about it in the sense of, mate, look what's happening to cricket and all the changes that are going to need to happen, and like the bold leadership needed to take the direction of the cricket in this country in the way that's going to hold us in good stead for years to come, given all the changes and all the economic stresses, not just within cricket, but globally happening in the moment and will be for the next decade. And I worry, like, are these the people to fucking steer the ship when they're like, when this is going on? They've handled this so poorly for nearly half a decade now. I don't know, man. I worry about it.
Good chance to bring in Brettig because there is a new leader about.
All right, here he is. Here's DB.
We are with the chief cricket writer from The Age, Dan Brettig. Brettig is what we call him.
Yeah.
I think does the best journalism in cricket in Australia. If you want hard cricket fucking knowledge, Brettig's your guy. He's a chief cricket writer for The Age. So, Brettig, welcome to the Great Cricketer in person.
Fantastic to be here, guys, on a beautiful summer's day.
Yeah, it's absolutely fucking shitting down outside in Melbourne at about 15 degrees, would you say? Max?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Max.
We got you in, Brettig, for a bit of Cricket Australia State of the Nation gear because you follow this shit night and day, 24/7, 365. Cricket Australia has a new chair, Mike Baird. He kind of looks like Mike Brady, actually, now that I say that. But
It does a little bit, actually, yeah.
He's replaced Dr. Lachlan Henderson, who has moved on because he's got a gig in WA. Does that deserve further scrutiny, by the way? Just like guy just moving on. And also, who is Mike Baird, and does the national club president have any influence over anything in cricket?
That's a good question to start with. But first thing I'll say is Lachlan Henderson is still the chair until February. There's a handover at the moment. Baird will basically become the chair at the end of their next regular board meeting in February, which means that Henderson is technically still in the chair while they do the broadcast rights, which is pretty important. In terms of Henderson taking another job, he had been the CEO of Epworth Health based in Richmond. He's taken the job as CEO of HBF, which is based in Perth. And it had actually been a long saga getting him to the point where he was chair in the first place on the basis that he was a CEO of a major company. He was too busy, which is often what you find with the directors of Cricket Australia since they moved to an independent board and corporates. Similarly, Mike Baird, former Premier of New South Wales, which is really his claim to fame, he had to go and talk to Hammond Health, which is basically the aged care and charity organisation that he is the CEO of, to try to get enough time to do the Cricket Australia role. And that was one of the big kind of discussions he had to have before it all came out during or on the final day of the test match.
Is he going to be able to do anything like once he becomes chair? Sorry, I don't know, he's not chair till February then. So what's Baird going to bring? What's he about?
Well, anyone who's been the Premier of a state is probably pretty good at being the public face of any kind of organising body. I think you'll find as chair, he will talk a lot in the public. He will talk more in the public than any chair of Cricket Australia in quite a while. Probably the last one who had even close to a public-facing role was Wally Edwards, the former WA opening bat, who was chair for a few years, bit under a decade ago now. But yeah, Mike Baird's got lots of polish in that regard. He's got all the polish that Nick Hockley doesn't have, the CEO. So I think you'll find that when issues come up, as they undoubtedly will, he will be talking a lot about them in public and putting that sort of public leadership face to Cricket Australia. Equally, he's going to be doing a lot of work in terms of relationships, management of, he will come in and the broadcast deal will already be signed. So he's going to be dealing with, if they're still with Seven, he's dealing with Kerry Stokes. If it's Foxtel, Patrick Delaney, et cetera, so Peter Costello if it's Nine. So that relationship building is important. And of course, as a former Premier, he's already got a lot of those.
So, Brettig, treat me as if I'm just some guy from the internet. And I just go to the games.
You're saying you're not?
So I just go to the game sometimes. I don't really care who the chairman is. Should I care? Should I care about who is liaising with the media, or like I just go to the game sometimes and I might watch a couple of Big Bash games. Like, should I care about this?
Well, at the top level, they are making decisions that are going to affect where the games are played, how much you pay for a ticket, how many games are on free-to-air TV or behind a paywall, and where Australia's touring overseas, how often they're doing it, and who they're playing cricket against. So
That seems quite important.
if you think of it in those terms, it's hugely important for, well, what they used to say was the man on the street, the man or the woman on the street.
So is the appointment or the ascension of Mike Baird indicative of any particular direction Cricket Australia wants to go, apart from being able to arrange words in a coherent manner? So like
A guy that can talk a bit.
you know, for example, some of the big ticket issues hovering over Cricket Australia are the media rights, as well as questions over the privatisation of the BBL, etc. Does the appointment of Baird signal any particular direction? Do you think he will be keen to take it in any particular direction?
I think a big giveaway, and you know, these things can sometimes be buried in documents that only people with jobs like mine can see, or have time to actually be bothered to read. The Cricket Australia strategy that Baird had some input in as a Cricket Australia board director was released earlier this year, and there's a key paragraph in a lot of, you know, manageries, jargon kind of stuff about diversifying revenue streams and sustainability of the game in a financial sense, and that's essentially coded for exploring privatisation. And so that is going to be a big conversation. I think there's still a huge range of views on it, and there are a couple of states who are absolutely, completely opposed to it. There'd be several Cricket Australia board directors who are opposed to it pretty strongly. But the link between the broadcast rights and privatisation is, if Cricket Australia doesn't get enough money out of this broadcast deal to invest in the areas that it wants to invest in, to pay the players more, as has been pretty well documented they're going to need to, particularly in the Big Bash, to be competitive with other T20 leagues. Yeah, if they don't get enough money out of the broadcast deal to service all that stuff, then they're going to have to look at, raising some capital in other ways.
Let me ask you a big question, DB. Are things good? Are things good at the moment? Like, because all the stories, all the news is about, it's all negative, and I know that sells, that sells more. And maybe that's always the case. Even when Australia were like the best team ever, like we were like, yeah, but do we like them as blokes? So maybe that's always the case. But just get a sense of like, are players off the team, what's happening with Langer, the Warner leadership stuff. No one's turning up to the Big Bash. The Big Bash is shit. But like, the West Indies are bad at cricket. What does any of this mean? Like a T20 cricket, what does Test cricket mean? These are just some of the conversations I have this morning to myself in the shower.
I love it. You're like, the media is always talking about this, but like when we talk about it, it's just a couple of blokes knocking around.
No, it's fine.
Tweeting it to your own alternative accounts.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, to my bone burner accounts. Yeah. So a big question, but like, are things good?
Are things good? I don't think things are as bad as you would think if you read the comments under some of the newspaper articles we write, or some of the tweets under some of the newspaper articles that are tweeted or put on social media. But I do think that Cricket Australia has had an issue, and it's not a new issue. I think it's been in place basically since the ball tampering scandal in 2018. Or even the MOU before that, the pay deal that went, pretty ugly fashion, and the players being out of contract for a month. They've kind of been in reactive mode ever since then. They've been playing defense, as Sam, as a communications professional, would know, and yeah, they are trying somehow to get on the front foot. And in the case of going to a chair who is going to be pretty good at articulating where cricket's going and wanting to go, that is a chance to turn those tables a little bit. And so, yeah, I think things are probably better on the whole. And if you look at things, empirical measures of Australian cricket, like the broadcast audiences, like the record of the men's and women's teams in recent times, all of those empirical measures, as opposed to comments that you're reading anecdotally, things are better than they may seem.
Just on that point, sorry, Pez, like just on that point, I saw a tweet of yours, which was like, I think 86,000 people turn up to Adelaide Oval, right? And the previous two times the West Indies have been out here for test matches in Adelaide, it was like 20,000 people more or something, wasn't it?
It was 20,000 people more this time. Yes.
This time, yes.
And that is, that is a product of the stadium redevelopment. The stadium redevelopment, the expansion of the membership that they have, and the use of out the back or the village green, whatever you want to call
out the back,
as a real, as a selling point, and also and I think this is actually something that probably should be a broader conversation. people need the chance to consume Test cricket in a way where they're not consuming it like footy. Like you need space to move around, have different experiences across a day. Don't be stuck in the same seat for 6 hours.
Perfect, yep.
And that's what Adelaide has got right. Sydney does it to a degree with the SCG, the way that is arrayed. Although that's it's in both cases, Adelaide and Sydney, it's only for the members, so that's probably another.
And
debate.
oysters as well now at the SCG, so that's good news.
There you go. But the absence of that was really felt. The absence of that was really felt in Perth during the first test against the West Indies because it's a footy stadium. You either sit in your seat or you go to get a drink where you can't really watch the cricket from.
Right.
And then you have to go back to your seat.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Mike Baird is from New South Wales. Cricket Australia's in Jollymont. There always seems to be like an unspoken, antagonism between New South Wales and other states, particularly in Victoria. We're always fanning the flames of some AFL stuff there. Like, what does the appointment of Mike Baird mean vis-a-vis the grip of AFL in Cricket Australia thinking, or is it broader than that?
I think he will definitely bring a different mindset in terms of how conscious he is of AFL, being in Sydney and seeing things through a different
AKA
lens.
not at all.
Yeah, well, might have gone to the Swans game. I don't know. Yeah. We'll have to check the photo archive, see if he'd been to one. But no, I think the main difference is going to be that he has managed to, since he's been on the board, convince the other directors who are from all around the country and all the state associations, not just Cricket New South Wales or Queensland, the other rugby league state, that he is his own man. He's not someone who's coming to put the Cricket New South Wales agenda onto the national stage. He's going to work with people, build consensus, find a shared path forward. And honestly, I think that would have been, in terms of the cricket politics to this, that was difficult. That took quite a bit of ability on his part as a politician, literally, to win over a pretty diverse bunch of people in terms of their ideas and their views of who should lead Cricket Australia relative to agendas either actual or perceived.
So Brettig, selling the game to broadcast, both like linear and digital, essentially funds the game, right? Funds the majority of the game. The current deal concludes next year, is that right? And then parties are currently bidding for the deal after that. So what do we know about where it currently sits? And maybe, because it can be a very industry jargon type of question, put it in like Higo's terms. Like what might that mean?
Put it in great terms.
What might it mean for the fans? Where cricket turns up next and where you watch it.
Well, in terms of, I suppose you'd say the bidding for it, the competition for it, the leading bid, at least initially, was 10 Paramount. So 10 obviously have a free-to-air network. They also
led it last time, right? About this time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Who had a what they didn't have last time, but now do have with Paramount is an established streaming service. So they have a pay arm and a free arm, and if they were to get everything, you would be watching a combination of cricket on 10, the free-to-air network, and on Paramount Sports streaming, and that would be the mix. In the last week or two, that bidding has closed up because Fox and Seven, who are obviously the current partners, have pushed back, said, we can pay this amount, and by the way, we're backing ourselves in as having greater reach, a bigger audience, particularly in free-to-air terms. There's a view that 7 and 9 are the two major free-to-air networks, and that 10 runs a distant third. But the counter to that, of course, is that there have been numerous times in recent history where when 10 get a good property, they actually close that gap. So when they had the AFL, they closed that gap. When they had the Big Bash League, they closed that gap. Another one that people forget about is when they had the Simpsons. They closed that gap, and that was huge.
Yeah.
That was
I
huge.
thought they did The Simpsons very well, Channel 10.
Yeah.
Definitely. Sort of Bert Newton throwing it over to it there.
Yeah.
Tim Webster after sort of Sports Tonight.
Yeah. So honestly,
Simpsons into Neighbours.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, you could be watching cricket on free and on streaming, on a completely different network, you could be seeing more or less the same arrangement as you have at the moment. But then the other debate, obviously, within that is whether, say, men's white ball cricket stays behind a paywall, which, you know, has obviously been a pretty touchy issue for a lot of people since 2018.
How much bunts are we talking here for these kind of rights? How much skrill are we talking?
How much cabbage?
How much cabbage?
Sheets.
Yeah, tell me about sheets.
Or out sheets wise.
Yeah.
Sheets. We believe, and when I say we believe,
You're bidding.
Zoe Samios, the media reporter at The Age and The Herald, is a terrific reporter, and been working with her on this story. We believe that the value is somewhere in the low 200s. 200s of millions a season, as opposed to the previous deal being around a bit over 190 million a season. So it's not a huge uplift at the moment. And obviously the hope of Cricket Australia is that the more competitive it gets, the more money the ultimately winning bidder is going to throw in and try to get that deal a bit further. There's also talk that this deal will be for 7 years, which obviously provides more certainty over how much money's coming in over a longer period of time.
Right.
Okay, can you run us through what CA would consider in terms of the question of cricket behind a paywall? I mean, put in very crass terms, you put it behind a paywall, fewer people see the game, which has an impact to awareness and profits, etc., and growth of the game. But by the same token, that paywall organisation also has a lot of bunts, and so, you know, as we've seen with England going behind the paywall there as well, there's a trade-off. You know, you get paid heaps of bunts, fewer people see the game. Do you have any sense of how CA are viewing that arrangement? How do you think Fox has performed? And I say that obviously because, you know, I just wanted to say this, you know, The Age is owned by 9 papers, Channel 9.
Publishers of this masthead.
Yeah, whatever.
The big, you know, the debate, the conflict always is money versus audience reach. And in the case of Fox, obviously they are paying the majority of the existing deal relative to 7, and they also know that as a matter of course, they put cricket on the TV. It's the biggest thing that Fox have going by a mile. That being said, at the absolute peak of audience that they get, and I think this was during the India-Australia series a couple of years ago, if you combine the streaming on KO and the linear or the Foxtel portion of it, the best I think they got was a bit over 600,000, which is huge numbers for Foxtel. But if you put that match, you know, saying it's an Australian men's one-day match, for instance, or T20 international, for instance, you could be getting 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 million if you open that up to free. And one of the things that Fox and 7 don't have at the moment is the arrangement that the ECB have, or they don't have it, but Sky has it with Channel 4, where if there's a significantly big event that England are playing in, say a World Cup final or a critical test match, last day of an Ashes series, something like that, they can make an agreement to put that on Channel 4 to make it free to a much bigger audience. And that's the other thing, that if you go to a provider who's got both a free arm and a streaming arm, you can move content from one to the other during the deal, and that's not something that's been able to happen in the past 5 years.
They did that recently. Did Channel 4 have a game recently? They have a day's
It's
play.
happened a couple of times.
They had the T20 World Cup final.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was it.
Brettig, thank you so much for giving us the hardcore information around some of this gear, which we just tend to put in grade terms with very loose accuracy. So appreciate you coming in, Matt. I know you've got to go to Ballarat now. We'll see you up in Brisbane.
Excellent.
Thank you very much to Daniel Brettig. Hey, mate, the Big Bash starts today. Speaking of the future, yeah, the big one. I can hear people waving their flags and putting in their Guernseys as we speak. It's Sydney Thunder, Melbourne Stars in Canberra.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Manuka Oval, the big place to kick off the Big Bash League. The Big Bash League. Oh, people would just be emptying their buckets of KFC and just bunging it on the old bonts there. Sticking on the old bonts.
Isn't the name even funny? Like, isn't the name,
Big Bash League.
Yeah, like it's so. I know it's designed for children, but it's like it's so juvenile. It should change, really. I mean, let's go right from the start. The name's wrong. Look, I want to be up for this because we're post COVID.
Yeah.
There are a few excuses around. There's now some proper forces pushing the importance of domestic franchise cricket. They have this golden goose there, and a couple of the teams have some good players knocking around that could be good. Like Hobart Hurricanes under Ponting.
Yeah.
That's a fucking good side. Look, they got the Pakistani stuff. Asif Ali, Shadab Khan. That's what you need.
That's what you need.
He's got in Zach Crawley. Great to watch. Jimmy Neesham. Nathan Ellis, Ben McDermott, Riley Meredith, Wadey, Tim David.
Fuck, that's
good. It's a fucking good team.
Fuck, that's good.
So, they're like that. And Ponting being about gives it some credibility.
Yeah.
Just gives it a little bit of gravitas. Heat have Bilbo, like the Stars lost Maxi. The Sixers are always good. Interesting players coming through like Todd Murphy there.
Mate,
Trent Bolt's playing for the Stars.
Sydney Thunder's got Alex Hales captaining, I think.
Yeah.
World
Is he
Cup
captain?
winner.
Is he? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sanger's captaining. They went through that because Warner pulled out. They announced Sanger.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about saying Stoinis and Hales holding the trophy.
Oh, right.
But neither of those are captain because Adam Zampa's the new captain of the Stars. He'll be the first leg spinning captain of that team since
Richie Benno.
Since SK. The king. Since Richie Benno. Fuck, Benno would have been good at the Big Bash.
Adelaide, yeah.
A deep V.
Fucking hell, yeah. He would have sold it. Adelaide strikers, they've got, Colin de Grandhomme,
Yep.
Linny. But they got like Wes Agar and Harry Conway.
Yeah, okay. A couple of roosters
They're
there.
fun. Rashid Khan. I think that's what annoys people about the BBL. You can see it. It's so close to being good. It's close.
I haven't gone through the squads, but you've just named some teams there. It's actually fucking good.
Yeah, some good players.
That's actually seriously good.
Little bit more, what's the word? Like literacy around T20 cricket in Australia following the World Cup.
Yeah.
Tim David's been in the BBL for a while. No one's had a fucking clue who the bloke is, and now it's like, fucking TD.
Yeah.
Let's
It
go.
is funny. Like Joffre played a number of years at Hobart and was like, never heard of him.
That's Australia.
Yeah.
So I want to be up on it. You know, I think there's been a bit of chat about potentially lessening the number of games, particularly with the new media rights deal, which we've already spoken to Dan about.
Slashing about as many as 20 games from it.
Yeah, but I guess it depends on what the TV networks pitch. But I just, this is. I want to be bullish on the BBL. Want it to be good, and I see glimpses.
Well, Smith is playing for the Sixers for 4 games for 250k. Warner's playing the same amount for 300k. So but I've got to say, at least they're playing.
That's a win to Smith. I thought.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Warner fucking stitched up again.
Yeah, Warner probably Australia's
12 years in the IPL. I fucking won the thing. Smash barely gets a game. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Just about the same coin.
Yeah. Well, he's best batter in the world.
So, a couple of the Aussie guys are coming back. I want to be up on it.
Something there. There's something there. It is amazing that Australia has the shortest cricketing window in the entire globe. Like you can't. Longer term, you can't have the Test team, the Test summer, and the BBL running at the same time.
That's right.
You can't have it. Okay, that's what it is right now. It is what it is. But some of the guys are playing some games. That's good. That is good. And look at the teams that are playing. The overseas guys, they're here as well. It's going to get eaten into because of the Dubai League and the South African League and the UAE League. I think Qatar's got a thing going on. What's Oman doing?
It's so funny, mate, isn't it? It's like, and if you look at the World Cup this year, you're like, you don't envy being Nick Cockley's like, which format has to play cricket when we're all caring about 2K time trials post AFL season?
Yeah.
Like the great secret of Australia and its love affair with cricket and fucking, the ABC PO box being 9994 is that there's 6 weeks where you get into it max. And
like even who's out here? Windies, win the thought so.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only fucking 3 teams in the correct conditions. It's got to be doing a bit, but not too much.
SCG wicket's dog shit, isn't it? All right.
So that's the BBL.
Okay, Pakistan and England is coming up. But before then, do you want to talk? We're talking to Ali Martin, who's in Pakistan. It's been a historic series. It's been an amazing series. Both of those test matches have been fucking unbelievable. But let's talk about Budgie Smuggler. It's budgiesmuggler.com.au. That is my
Budgie,
preference.
we're getting into Christmas kit, and I understand that Budgie Smuggler are going to be collating a bit of a Pez and Higgos collection as well. We've made a couple of choices of some stuff that we will be kidding around in. We're going to get this on the show, but it might be the TGC collection. Just waiting for the green light on that.
Do you want to talk about Alex Carey? In Smugglers?
Well, I'm not sure what he's wearing these days.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's wearing these days.
But it came to our attention.
I know he's kitting around in some smugglers. So and some smugglers that you might recognise. But I'm not sure if he's doing that these days.
Now, I don't want to break the fourth wall too much, but hey, now that I've said that I can. When we're at the back of Adelaide, and that's just the only place you watch the cricket, not actually on the field, not anywhere near the field, you go out the back. Unbelievable. That is number one in the world for me, I think, and we've been fortunate enough to go to some places, but that's number one in the world to watch your cricket, and by that I mean not watch and just drink. But ran into Alex Carey's brother out the back and had a really nice, lovely chat. He's a really nice guy. And what gave it away, first thing he came over, and of course we have to comment on someone's appearance straight away, came over and he said, "G'day boys, I love your work," whatever. And we said, "You got lovely eyes."
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later he's like, "Yeah." And then a few minutes later he's like, "Oh, I'm Alex Carey's brother." And I was like, "Oh, well, there it is. There it is. Lovely eyes."
Makes full sense now.
Make complete sense. And,
a smile.
I don't even need to see a birth certificate, which is what I usually ask for in that situation, but I just believed it because of the eyes. Deep blues.
Beautiful energy, those Carey brothers. Beautiful. They have a beautiful, serene energy to them.
I felt very relaxed. Yeah. He may have put something in my drink.
There was two choices. It's either the energy of the family or roofies.
Different to Rufus, so I'm saying this Friday. Looking forward to that. So anyway, but we've seen Alex Carey actually getting around in the was it the all-time alphas, or was it was great rigs? It was the great rigs is what he was wearing, the Budgie Smuggler, the great rigs, TGC's first or second pair of patchwork that we did, which feature him. We also saw Scott Boland actually getting the rub down wearing his own Scott Boland Budgie Smugglers. We saw that. I think Usman might have put that on his Instagram story. Scotty getting the rub down after a session.
Yeah, I think they might have. I think the Aussie team might have created their own custom design.
That custom design.
So the Aussie team are going customs for Budgie Smuggler.
We've seen Ben Stokes in smuggling. In the past.
Yep. Oh look, athlete-driven content is basically ruling the roost across the world. And if that's your want, that's your need, then look at what's happening in cricket. All they do is get around Budgie Smugglers, and that's all we do. And we do that specifically by going to budgiesmuggler.com.
T20 stars, Pez, in that theme, it just says straight here on the website, cricket for everyone. Isn't that nice? Cricket for everyone. And you can get all your stars. You can get all your stars and all your
Melbourne
kit
stars
at t20stars.com. Now let me get me code up here, Pez. You can get use the code TGC15 for 15% off all the full T20 Stars range. We said this last week, but we got great features on this website, mate. T20stars.com, great features. We obviously did a little review there. You got an online gear selector, unbeatable service, free and quick delivery, 100% money back guarantee, Pez. 100% money back guarantee, but you won't even need that, Pez. You won't even need it because you've got the gear selector there. Wouldn't give a little bit of gear selecting. As featured on The Grade Cricketer, Daily Telegraph, Herald Sun, news.com.au, whatever you want. We've said this before, Watto's got his mitts all over these bad boys. All over these bad boys. Ready to be every bowler's worst nightmare, says Watto. That's a direct quote from the website, t20stars.com. It's good kit. It's the best kit. It's good gear. t20stars.com. Use the code TGC15 for 15% off the full T20 Stars range. All right, let's talk to Ali Martin in Pakistan.
Chief cricket correspondent at The Guardian, Ali Martin, general big dog, connoisseur, king, dad. Joins us on The Grade Cricketer again. He's live in Pakistan. Ali, what have England done?
Well, they've done what no one really expected, to be honest. England had only ever won 2 Test matches in their entire history in Pakistan. Nicked a couple of 1-0 series wins, which I know is the Australian method, but this time around, they've come here, and you'd have to say with a team that doesn't actually have all bases covered. They've thrown absolutely everything at it, pretty much in the mould of their captain, the image of their captain Ben Stokes, and they've come away well. They're 2-0 up with 1 to play, which is incredible scenes really.
There's just match winners now from 1 to 11. And I know this guy's sort of barely the story, though he's just so consistent, Jimmy Anderson. Like, I mean, first of all, that ball to Rizwan is just pure sex. So there's that. But he's now averaging like 20 in the last 15 years or whatever. He just strikes me as a guy he's like Ronaldo-esque in like he's just fit. And he's like to be that fit and to be that flexible, like that's diet, that's training, that's committing his entire life to this sport. And I think he's going to play for another 10 years, but he seems to be like only like another small part in this broader story of just match winners fucking everywhere, Ali.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's appetite is incredible, and I think you're right to touch on the fitness there, because obviously we see the end products out on the field, but what we don't, the muscle starts to waste away, and you have to find ways to compensate. But he's also, I mean, he's got himself out there. The closest I can think of that I've seen is probably the sort of latter-day Richard Hadley, and the way that he's pared everything back. It's now the most smooth, refined bowling action, and it's just so repetitive. And I'm not saying it doesn't take anything out of his body, because you can see that it's, you can see they're all absolutely knackered by the end of that test win. But the way Jimmy's just got himself in such an efficient machine now, and the skills, I mean, it's incredible, really, because people talk about, a guy that's a bit of a home track bully, he loves the clouds and what have you. These pitches are not Jimmy Anderson pitches, and there he is getting one to move away from Rizwan. I mean, that is, the guy's taken 670 wickets. That is right up there with one of the best balls he's ever bowled.
Ali, only a year ago, even less, England were bottom of the pile, playing some turgid cricket and getting demolished by Australia. And obviously Australia goes to bed on that. We won't wake up until we play U's again. But since then, largely under the same group of players, but just with a new captain and coach, they are playing cricket that nobody has ever seen before and achieving results that in many cases are record-breaking in an entertaining and compelling way. Are they the best team in world cricket?
I don't know. I don't know about that, because they've probably got a few more challenges to tick off before you can say that in Test cricket. The bloodletting that we had last year, the mass sackings and the high performance review. Well, this is starting to sound like high performance to me. And it really is. I think in terms of the Test team, it says a lot about the power of the mind. We go into, we sometimes get accused of talking psycho-babble and trying to read too much into it, but this is effectively the same set of players. I remember when I was speaking to you guys this time last year, and you said to me, are England problems, are they systemic, or is this a management issue? I at the time I diagnosed it as both, but it just goes to show that with fresh leadership, fresh energy, fresh messaging, a captain like Ben Stokes and a head coach like Brendan McCullum, which is it's a pretty typical English story in that sometimes it needs an outsider to come in and kind of free people up and open their minds and stop thinking negatively. But you can see the effect that it's had, because it's not just results, it's the way they're doing it. And I still, I mean, it was a remarkable win yesterday in Multan, but that first test, to see an English side attack a pitch like that, they could have really hit that test with such negative energy, thinking there's nothing we can get out of this, we can't take 20 wickets, all we can do really here is cling on and try and dig in for the draw. Well, they absolutely attacked that match with the bat. That opened up the canvas at the back end of the game, but because it scored so quickly. And as I say, I don't know if it's that line from The Usual Suspects, or is it the greatest trick the devil ever played. Well, Ben Stokes has managed to convince a group of English fast mediums that they can well on these surfaces, and that is quite a remarkable achievement, to be honest.
I've actually been really, really impressed with what I've seen of Ollie Pope's keeping. I've never seen him keep before. I know Folks is number one keeper. I know they've been saying like, no, he is still the number one, but the balance of the side. But I just wonder, like, some of the catches that he's taken. I know he took 2 good catches in this game, down the leg side, but there was a couple where like he has to be standing so close to the stumps, though not up to the stumps. Some of those reflex catches are actually remarkable. I don't know people how hard it is to catch it that close to the stumps, but is he in any way going to usurp Ben Folks? Do you think maybe in the England summer, like can they get a better balanced squad without Folks if he's going to keep as well as what he has done so far?
I'd be surprised on that front, but only partly because of his own sort of designs on that number 3 slot, which is unfamiliar territory as well. So I mean, certainly huge kudos to Ollie Pope for taking on 2 challenges at the same time. But I would say that actually the kind of the question mark we're looking at now is probably caused by the rise of Harry Brook. Now, Ben Stokes compared Harry Brook yesterday to Virat Kohli, and it's such a huge hyperbolic kind of shout on one level, but at the same time, I can see what he means, because he's looking at Harry Brook as a player whose technique really probably is so simple and so pure, but so powerful that you think that it should transfer around the world. You don't think he's going to be a kind of horses for courses kind of pick. We're looking at a kind of 10, 15 year talent really here, I think. And that being the case, that creates middle order. And with Johnny Bairstow, having been actually the main sort of fire starter for the whole thing anyway during the English summer, that he's got to come back in at some point. Johnny's never, ever given up designs on those gloves himself. I just wonder if that's where the squeeze happens, and whether at some point England may have to make a decision going into next summer that Johnny gets those gloves back and an already frightening batting lineup gets even more frightening.
And it's wonderful to see you guys have won a couple of games, so you're starting to talk a lot, which I think is something that England are particularly good at. Not only are they compelling, entertaining, record-breaking rings, Ben Stokes is now saying that doesn't matter. He's focused on the bigger picture. So how good is it that he's both winning and saving the code of Test cricket as well?
Yeah, I must admit, I kind of, on the one hand, I kind of think, well, fair play. I respect that, and as someone that loves Test cricket above all other formats, it's great to hear a captain talking like that. You wonder whether, you look at the India over the previous 5 to 10 years, and his pat on the tits of everyone else who's listening to it. With England, I think if there's one team to care about, is entertainment. They claim to have parked the sort of notion of results, and their mood isn't as influenced by results as it was previously. But as I say, that's one of these sort of liberating mind tricks that at the moment is really paying dividends.
You guys have won 8 out of the last 9 matches. Are you going to start saying something dumb like that Australia are favourites for the Ashes, or are you actually going to own up to what you've done and say that England should win 5-0, fuck off?
Well, I've got to say I'm really intrigued by the Ashes series next summer. Obviously, there's a bit of cricket to come before then. There's one more test in Karachi, and England have got 2 in New Zealand because we have to keep playing New Zealand. I don't know. There's some pact that was made that we just owe each other cricket for the end of time till the end of time. But yeah, it's funny because every captain that sort of comes up against England always says, it's all very well, but I'd like to see him do it against our boys. So it will be fascinating to see how England go there. But blimey, I mean, at the end of the last Ashes series, people were sort of thinking they're going to lose the next one at home. But this time around, it's an absolute box office series that's been set up now, I think.
Well, it's all very well, Ali, but I'd like to see him do it against our boys. Thanks so much for joining us, mate, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, take care, boys. Good to speak to you.
Thank you very much to Ali. Wonderful to hear his voice again. All right, let's talk about Australia women and India women, indeed in India. A great series so far, though, of course, we now must stop following this team because they've lost their first T20 game in 2022. But Australia won the first T20. It's an absolute fucking disgrace, mate. Australia won the first T20 by 9 wickets. That made me feel good. I recognise these numbers. Beth Mooney, 89 red. Talia McGrath, T-Mac, 40 red. A nice story as well, Pez, for Kim Garth, who debuted for Australia in this first game, having played for Ireland for nearly 10 years. She debuted in 2010 at the age of 14, you may recall.
Right, handy play.
She quit Ireland in 2020, moved to Victoria, played for the Stars and the Scorchies. The Scorchies over there, obviously for Victoria. No.
We saw him. We saw him in the press box, and it was difficult.
Anyway, Kim Garth, let me give you some quotes in relation to possibly not playing for Ireland again. Was a big factor in how difficult the decision was to make. I knew what I was giving up, but at the time, I knew the strength of the domestic system here, being Australia, how strong the local players were. The WBBL was a big pull for me to become a local as they attracted top international players. Having played a few years in grade cricket in Australia, I have seen some of the lifestyle the girls live and play cricket every day for a living and not have to work other jobs at the side. It's something I really wanted to do, and it was a now or never type of thing. I knew it would. I think I was 23 when I made the decision. Take me a couple of years to become a local, and if I left it any longer, it wouldn't be worthwhile. It was a difficult decision to leave my family behind, but I have no regrets now. So that's a nice story. Have you seen the stuff with Shelley Nitschke telling her in the team hotel that she's going to get her debut. It's nice.
I love that shit.
Yeah, it's nice stuff. It's nice stuff.
I'm big on that.
So she played in that game, that first game that Australia won by 9 wickets. Very, very safe, that sort of stuff. And then it all sort of fell apart. And now I just actually can't stand the sight of these girls. Absolutely horrendous stuff because they've actually lost their first game in about 9 years.
Can't stand the sight of
I can't stand the sight of them. Can't even look them in the eyes. Actually, there was also a nice thing of Elise Perry awarding Kim Garth her cap in that first game, where she was doing some Kath and Kim stuff. She was like, Kimmy, look at me. It was good. You see it?
No.
Yeah, it was very funny.
That's good.
Anyway, this second game, India won in a super over, which makes it even more painful. Australia made 1 for 187.
Oh.
Who got the runs? Moons and T-Mac again. 82 red, 70 red.
Not enough.
India made that score. Mandana hit 79. And then India made 20 in the super over and Australia hit 16. Phoebe Litchfield debuted in that game.
Okay.
As did Heather Graham, the actress from Boogie Nights, who actually bowled Australia's super over. So,
and Elisa Healy captaining for the first time.
Elisa Healy
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Smriti Mandana took down Heather Graham in the super over.
Yes.
So giving the debutante the super over
super
there.
over, yeah. She bowled. She was actually the most economical in the match itself.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And so Smriti took her down 20 runs, and I think Gardner got out first ball.
Yeah.
And it just fell away.
Yeah.
I think some consolation runs for Healy at the end.
Yeah.
So like 10 off the last two, but they needed 16, so not enough.
Yeah, not enough.
But the main thing is it was played in front of 45,000 people in Mumbai.
Yep.
That is incredible gear. I mean, Elisa Healy had an incredible perspective about it straight away. I think everyone was blown away by that. And ahead of the women's IPL next year, where I think, some franchises are slated to be going for 50 million in the one colour.
In the greenback.
Yeah, that is extremely good gear. Good gear. I don't know. My understanding is I think Indians do enjoy when India wins, and a lot of good stuff comes from that.
I have seen that, yeah. I have seen that. Should we talk about Bangladesh, India?
So quite good from Heels, from Midge to knock that second ball down the mid off. I'll take one.
Yeah, well,
that was the most lucrative single she's ever hit.
She was probably just wondering if Mitch is going to play the IPL this year. No, he's not. Okay, just come one.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll do it myself. Get that green back myself.
That's so
harsh. It's so unfair.
Anyway,
a couple of tickets from the internet here.
Yeah, anyway, India, Bangladesh, Ishan Kishan crowing about double ton. Already lost a series championship. Come on.
Bangladesh, India. All right, Bangladesh win that ODI series 2-1. Now, I've got my notes here, Pez. I mentioned it last week. Okay, we'll do the India stuff in a second, but India in 2022 lost the Test series in South Africa. They lost the same series attached to the ODI series attached to that Test series. They lost the 5th Test in England, which was the 5th Test of that 2021 series. They lost that. They didn't qualify for the Asia Cup final. They lost by 10 wickets in the semi-final of the T20 World Cup. They lost the ODI series against New Zealand. They've lost an ODI series against Bangladesh. That's it's amazing. I mean, for Indian fans, that's a lean year.
That's a bad year.
That's a really bad year. But Ishan Kishan hit 210 off 131. So they win everything forever. And Kohli hit another 100 as well. That's his 72nd or some shit. International 100. That's pretty good. But it was only against Bangladesh. Doesn't really count. See, I can have it both ways. India made 409 for 8 and Bangladesh made 182 in there. That's in the third.
Yeah, didn't they smoke Namibia or something as well in
that was in the Asia. No, that was last year's World Cup. That was the 2021 World Cup. They got knocked out.
They enjoy a dead rubber win.
Yeah.
They're the worst team to play in a dead rubber in
They didn't even make the semi-finals in the 2021 T20 World Cup in the UAE, did they? Right. No, they didn't. Yeah. And I forget how they
You'd have to imagine there's a bit of pressure on Rahul Dravid. But he loves pressure. He's the wall.
Yeah, that's
so.
So what?
No. That's how it works in cricket, isn't it? It's here's this coach that has manifestly, tangibly mixed results, bordering on poor. It's but they were a good cricketer when I was a child.
Yeah, and he's got a good nickname. So they've got a 2-test series which starts tomorrow in Bangladesh. Rohit Sharma is out with a thumb because in the second game, Rohit Sharma actually almost got them home. He either fractured or dislocated his thumb. He had to go to hospital and he came in batting at 9. Then he hit 45 off about 10 balls and almost got them home. But he's got a seriously injured thumb. So he's out. So KL Rahul will captain the side. Shubman Gill is going to open the batting. And it's going to be a debutante for, and I've never said this name before, so I'm going to get it wrong, but I apologise. It's Abhimanyu Eswaran.
That's it.
Or Iswaran, who was captaining India A in Bangladesh recently and did well. So he's been waiting in the wings. So he'll come in for Rohit. But I mean, given that the success that Kohli and Shastri had, and then since then, just the fall away has been honestly that given the series they've lost this year, the fall away underneath Dravid and Rohit Sharma. I mean, that's a dramatic fall away. I mean, I don't know what to conclude from that other than they.
I know what to conclude.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the end of the Asian century.
Kohli captain again.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
He's been waiting in the wings. He's been sort of pulling some strings behind him.
I don't think anyone's saying it.
That's why. That's when you got to say that stuff.
That's what you got to get on.
That's when you got to say that stuff.
Let's just have it.
Yeah,
let's just get
it.
them back.
Yeah, get the band back together.
Sorry, Daddy. I didn't appreciate you.
Ganguly coach.
Ganguly BCCI president. Just reinstate that.
Okay.
There's just aggression deluxe.
I like that.
Yeah. I like the old thing that I knew.
KL Rahul's very calm. He's had a great test year, I suppose, 18 months. KL Rahul, hundreds in England, hundreds in South Africa, I want to say as well.
Loves the gym too. Hates the squat.
Yep. Loves a bit of Red Bull. All that stuff.
Okay. He likes Japanese food too.
Hey, who doesn't? Smash a bit of sushi.
Love
Have you ever gone to a sushi restaurant and left full? Because I don't think I ever have. You know when you go to like in London, for instance, a Yo Sushi, you go to like a sushi train situation, and there's plates there, and you're just racking up massive bills. You know, like it's just you go for like your $5 plate, you go for your $2 plate. And I'm just eating so slowly that I'm never full, and before you know it, I've spent $142, and I'm not really satiated.
I normally leave pretty full. There's a lot of rice going on.
Yeah, a bit of rice going on.
Rice, so I want to go with you, but normally feeling pretty done there. Sort of, we sort of run down a little narrow laneway there, haven't we? Hit the wall.
Okay.
How do we turn around?
The wall, so to speak. Right? You're talking about Rahul Dravid? He'll never coach again. All right, before we get into hashtag AskTGC, we need to thank our dear friends at Manscaped. Use the code TGC for 20% off. I don't know who needs to hear this. You know when people start those sentences? I don't know who needs to hear this. Yes, you do. It's people with enormous pubic hair.
Yep. Yeah. No segue this week. It's just if you're a bloke with fucking long old pubes
and you don't have a significant other, but you want one, but you want to buy yourself a little Christmas treat, go to manscaped.com.
Maybe if you do
and
have
buy
a significant other and you're just not sorting yourself out.
She should be buying it for you. Or
it's not her responsibility.
If you haven't got her a present, buy this for yourself and tell her that I'm doing a service for you, and she'll actually thank you. Yeah. She'll say thank you.
Normally how it works. That reminds me of that talking dog at the Queen Victoria building in Sydney, voiced by John Laws. Have you seen that talking dog?
Yes, I have.
iLad. I reckon I know it word, but I just need to get the start of it. Hello, my name is iLad. I was once the companion and friend of the great Queen Victoria. Because of the many good deeds I have done for deaf and blind children, I have been given the power of speech. If you cast a coin into the wishing well now, I will say, thank you. Thank you. Rolf! Now, what we don't understand is that a lot of those coins now can be used, because I don't know if you can still cast those coins if that money does go to the good deeds for deaf and blind children or whatever, where those coins go. But if you do have some discretionary coin, you can actually start shaving your pubes with them. And it is the season for clean balls. Fa la 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 la. Our friends at Manscaped are helping you clear your driveway for safe travels this holiday season. From stocking stuffers to gift exchanges, Manscaped's products are at the top of every wish list. Grab some crop mops for your pops. Or the shampoo for your boo. Be the star of gifting season and help all the men in your life go from eggnog to nice hog this December by going to manscaped.com and using the code TGC for 20% plus free shipping.
Nice hog. All right, hashtag AskTGC is brought to you by Ponting Wines, pontingwines.com.au. Use the code GET-A-FEW at pontingwines.com.au.
Shiraz.
And indeed, we had a lovely glass of Shiraz. Now, Of course, Pez and I, when we flew into Adelaide, straight at the back of the members there, straight at the back, we're having a couple of lagers, and it was really, really nice. A little bit dusty the next day. Okay, sure, the Adelaide show is a matinee show. It's 12 o'clock. Did I feel like a Shiraz? No, I didn't. By the second sip, it went down a real treat. I'm not even lying about that.
Really smooth.
I'm not even lying about that. It actually was. The first sip, I got to tell you, razor blades, because I just wasn't up for it.
Yep.
I don't think I'd even had breakfast.
Yeah.
I think we went to get a coffee. So the second thing I consumed that day.
That's the spirit. We enjoyed Adelaide the evening prior.
Yeah, we did.
We enjoyed Adelaide,
and we did a review outside there. We're outside a bar there.
Yep.
We got that up. You know, TJC never sleeps, never rests, never dies. But then, you know, a nice glass of Ponting's wine, Ponting wines. That was actually one of the treats of the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be drinking Ponting wines at Brisbane as well with JL on stage there. Come along to that show.
So JL will get involved as well.
He'll 100% get involved.
Yep.
I forget who I guess is in Melbourne, but I think he'll probably have a glass of his own.
Yeah. I'll double check who's actually joining us there.
And then in Sydney, well, Watto. We know Watto's penchant for a nice. Nice red.
Yeah, he likes a bit of rouge.
He hates it.
He hates a plonk.
He hates a plonk. And if you hate a plonk, pontingwines.com.au, use the code GETAFEW. Use the code GETAFEW. And seriously, do that because it is the season. 'Tis the season. All sorts. I think we had the pinnacle. We had the pinnacle Shiraz, didn't we? We had the pinnacle Shiraz is what we did.
Okay.
All right. Hashtag AskTGC. Anon wrote in. But I have a dilemma I'm hoping you can help me with. As you know, the southern part of Australia has two seasons, AFL season and cricket season. My 8-year-old son and I moved on from kicking the footy in the backyard to having a stick at the end of the day. In the winter, this involves me drilling passes to him from 5 metres away, thinking I can actually kick. In summer, it involves me bowling off spinners from 5 metres away, thinking of a comeback to cricket as a spinner because I am getting an 8-year-old to play and miss with drift and turn. Last night, something happened that I need your help with. He had just got me out, and it was his turn to bat. I bowled the first ball to him, and he played a really nice shot. I encouraged him with those amazing words of, "Nice shot, mate," and grabbed the ball and went back to bowl to him again. Just as I was about to walk into bowl, I heard him say out loud, "I love cricket." These 3 words stopped me in my tracks. I started to panic. My mind thought of hot days in the field, constant disappointment, toxic male behaviour that bordered on harassment, either mental and or sexual, the stress of having to take a plate for afternoon tea, and the thought of that plate being scrutinised and ridiculed just because lettuce was added to an egg sandwich. I stood there at the top of my mark, staring into the distance. The thought continued so long that it was broken by my son saying, "Are you going to bowl it or what? What are you thinking about?" Holy shit. Should I continue to encourage this? Should I continue to teach him to keep a straight arm when bowling or let him keep throwing it? Should I continue to tell him to get his front foot to the ball when batting? Am I sending him down a path of disappointment and frustration? Or is what I'm doing a good thing? Will it actually keep him away from the game? My father never did any of these things for me. Was this the reason I turned to cricket to fill the void of his absence? Cheers.
They say
what do they say, mate?
that like you know,
one brings two.
well, I was going to talk about this, like the psychologists who subscribe to attachment theory, and that's essentially one brings two. You know, one attachment style brings 2 psychological problems, but those attachment styles, I don't fully know them.
Think about a receptionist saying that in the therapist's office. It's kind of wordy, but
yeah, he's like, tell me about yourself or she, and you're like, oh, that's one brings two. Yeah,
one brings two.
Yeah, attachment.
This bloke's got no idea.
I just want
to believe you, boys.
What do you have? Like, you have insecure attachment. You can have secure attachment. You can have anxious attachment style, and it kind of basically creates the software and the architecture for how you live your life. You know, if you've got a couple of problems knocking around your life, you know, relationships, etc.
Yep.
Blame it on your parents. First 3 years, architecture, software download, they did it, their fault, etc.
Perfect.
And if you outsource parenting to cricket, as this guy's wondering about whether or not to do,
it's a cruel mistress.
Yeah, I think that's going to create an anxious attachment style.
Right.
You know, that's what cricket. If cricket was a parent, it would leave you with anxiety forever in all your relationships because you can never win. You're never good enough for it. You fail regularly. It is cruel, and it leaves you a nervous wreck. You know, whenever you go to play, And so I don't think a non is actually asking this, but I've turned it that way anyway. I think that if he wants his son to grow up with those attributes and facets or whatever, he's 8 years old, so the architecture is already there, then yeah, like absolutely invest in cricket. Cricket would be good for him.
I mean, Anon's already aware of it, but there is no respite. Like even literally the solace of a tea break where you can just calm down and you sit down, and the whole prism of that break is to literally get off the field and enjoy a cup of tea and bond with probably the opposition. That was probably the origins of that.
Yep.
As a civil activity in a pastime that existed before, films were open on, or cinemas were open on a Sunday, as an example, where they're probably burning witches and whatnot. Witches' hats, I mean. Burning witches' hats on the square because it was a bit of a damp
Adult
spot.
snuff films as well.
This was all before then. But if you bring a shit tea, unfortunately, 22 blokes are going to let you know about it.
He's definitely added some lettuce to an egg sandwich before. Just making an egg sandwich. Oh, so he's good. What are we looking at in the house here? Oh yeah. Oh, here's some egg.
Yeah.
Here's some bread. I mean, I don't know. Or
Why are you sledging it now? This is his point. He can't escape it.
I know. Isn't that the point?
Yeah, I guess it
don't
is.
Don't we sort of pile on the misery?
Oh,
Isn't that the idea?
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. It's a really vivid scene, though, that, he's like, said, great shot, mate. And then he's like walking back on a beautiful summer's evening or whatever. And then he just hears the words, I love cricket.
Yeah.
And he just fucking freezes, And the whole hello darkness, my old friend.
It's like black and white war footage of Vietnam War.
Exactly.
He's just fucking melting into the ground.
How is that? Dad?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Nothing, son.
Yeah. I am, though. I'm very keen for him to keep teaching him to chuck it because we need that in the future.
Just tell him to wear long sleeves.
The BBL starts today. Good luck to all those involved. Like it's a carnival. All right. Thank you very much to Brettig. Thank you very much to Martin. And thank you to those that have come to our shows. Yeah, Martin. Anything you want to say?
No.
I'm just thinking out loud. Should we have a business meeting? I think because the test match starts on Saturday. I'm not sure when the third test match starts in Pakistan. We'll do it after it finishes, just before Christmas. So,
We'll be back after the test.
See you later.